Most people treat making money like they're just running on a treadmill.
Oh, yeah, that's the perfect way to put it.
Right. You get on, you crank up the speed, you sweat, you totally exhaust yourself, and you get a paycheck. But the moment you step off that belt to catch your breath,
The treadmill stops.
the treadmill stops, and the income completely stops with it. So, okay, let's unpack this today, because our mission for this deep dive is to extract the actual blueprint for true wealth from our source material, the Almanac of Wealth, Principles for Freedom and Abundance.
And this is a really comprehensive stack of sources we're looking at today.
It really is. It's this curated collection of essays, interviews, personal notes, all basically synthesized to answer one massive question. How do you systematically build wealth and achieve total freedom in the modern age?
Right, without just relying on blind luck or, getting trapped in all that information overload out there.
Exactly. And the core argument woven through all of these sources is that wealth isn't about running faster on that treadmill. Wealth is about building a machine that runs while you sleep.
And to you listening right now, whether you're outlining a new business venture or maybe trying to navigate a frustrating career path or genuinely just wanting to reclaim your time, understanding this mechanical difference between the treadmill and the self-sustaining machine is the foundational step.
Yeah, we aren't looking at generic hustle culture motivation today, are we?
No, not at all. We're exploring a structural decoding of how value is actually generated and captured in a modern economy. But before we can even talk about building that machine, we have to strip away a lot of cultural programming about what we are actually trying to acquire in the first place.
Right, because society constantly blurs these concepts together. The source material tackles this by isolating three very specific things: wealth, money, and status.
And we really have to draw hard lines between these three.
So let's start with wealth. Wealth is the machine itself. It's the portfolio of assets that earn while you sleep. I mean, it's the computer program running on a server at 3 a.m.
Or a real estate property generating rent, right? Or an automated factory producing goods.
Exactly. That's wealth. But money is entirely different. Money is just the way we transfer wealth.
It's a social IOU, essentially.
Yeah, it's the rest of society looking at you and saying, you created value in the past, so here is a universal credit you can redeem for someone else's time or resources in the future.
Which brings us to the third concept, status. And this operates on a completely different psychological and historical axis. Status is your ranking in the social hierarchy.
And the sources point out we've been playing this game forever, right? Like evolutionary history shows our ancestors played this in small tribal groups.
Oh, absolutely. Hunter-gatherer societies lived entirely in status-based economies because they literally lacked the technology to store wealth.
You couldn't hoard property or build factories, you just carried what you owned.
Exactly. So survival depended entirely on your rank in the tribe. Who gets the best cut of the hunt, who makes the decisions. We didn't start shifting toward wealth-based societies until the agricultural revolution.
Right, when we finally figured out how to store grain and claim land. And the crucial mechanism here that the text highlights is that status is fundamentally a zero-sum game.
Yes. For you to move up to the number one slot, someone else absolutely must be pushed down to number two.
But wealth, by contrast, is a positive-sum game.
And that's a huge distinction.
It is, and I always find myself pushing back on that specific premise just a bit because, the dominant cultural narrative heavily implies that making money is inherently zero-sum.
Oh, yeah, and sometimes even unethical.
Right. We constantly hear this idea that the pie is only so big, so if a billionaire has a massive slice of the pie, the assumption is that they must have taken it from the working class. The instinct is to view wealth creation as a form of extraction.
What's fascinating here is the text's sharp distinction between what it calls makers and takers. The foundation of ethical wealth creation is that you aren't stealing slices of a finite pie. You are actually baking entirely new pies.
The pie gets larger.
Precisely. Consider the housing market or technological infrastructure. The world isn't running out of houses just because someone builds one.
Right. It's the opposite.
Exactly. The more we build, the more we refine the supply chains, improve the engineering, and reduce the long-term costs, which makes it easier for everyone to eventually have shelter.
Because the global population is objectively richer today than almost anyone alive 200 years ago.
And that isn't because we redistributed a medieval pile of gold. It's because wealth creation through science, technology, increased productivity generated unprecedented abundance out of thin air.
And when you look at it through that lens of abundance, it really reframes the people who constantly attack wealth creation.
Oh, definitely.
The sources point out, and we're just conveying the ideas in the text here, not taking sides, that when a pundit or a journalist attacks a whole industry, say the tech sector, they're usually just reverting to that ancient zero-sum status game.
Right, they're attempting to elevate their own moral status in the eyes of the public
Yeah,
by diminishing the status of the founders and engineers.
exactly. The implicit argument is, I am defending the common people, therefore my moral rank is higher than this wealthy creator.
It's just an evolutionary holdover. To win a status game, you must manufacture a loser.
But ethical wealth creation requires the exact opposite. It requires cooperating with other people to build something that didn't exist yesterday, something the rest of society voluntarily pays for because it improves their lives.
But if we accept that ethical wealth creation is positive sum, it forces us to confront a rather uncomfortable reality.
Oh, the wage trap.
Yes. Why do so many highly intelligent, fiercely hardworking professionals completely fail to achieve financial freedom? You see people grinding out 80-hour weeks in corporate towers, sacrificing their health, their relationships.
And they are nowhere near owning the machine.
Nowhere near it. And the source provides a mechanical reason for this. They are optimizing the wrong input. They are renting out their time.
Because the input and the output are inextricably linked. I mean, it doesn't matter how prestigious the job is.
No, it doesn't.
You could be a world-class surgeon or a corporate lawyer billing $1,000 an hour. You are still fundamentally trapped on the treadmill.
Because you take a month off, the revenue drops to zero.
If you are sleeping, the revenue is zero. The meter is only running when you are physically or mentally expending effort.
So to achieve true wealth, your inputs must be completely decoupled from your outputs. And the antidote to this wage trap, according to the sources, is the acquisition of specific knowledge.
Specific knowledge, which is a highly specialized form of understanding that cannot be mass-produced in a school or a training program.
And the economic logic here is cold but accurate. If a skill can be standardized and taught in a traditional classroom setting, it means someone else can be trained to replace you.
And if society can easily train your replacement, the free market will continually drive your compensation down to the minimum wage required to get someone to perform that task.
Eventually, software or robotics will just automate it away entirely. So specific knowledge, therefore, has to be highly idiosyncratic.
I was looking at how you actually acquire something that can't be taught, and my mind immediately goes to skill stacking.
Oh, the Scott Adams example.
Yes. The source uses the career of Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, as the perfect blueprint for this, because instead of trying to be the single best illustrator in the world, which is, a hyper-competitive, almost impossible goal.
He stacked different skills where he was just in the top 25%.
Exactly. He had mediocre drawing abilities, a pretty good sense of humor, and a very specific background in navigating soul-crushing corporate environments.
None of those traits are world-class on their own.
Right. But when you overlap them, you get a completely unique, uncopyable profile. He created a monopoly of one.
He essentially escaped competition through authenticity, because no one can compete with you on being you.
Wow.
This
Yeah.
specific knowledge is almost always found by pursuing your innate talents and your genuine obsessive curiosity. It is the esoteric topic you read about on the weekend while everyone else is relaxing.
It feels like play to you, but it looks like grueling work to outside observers.
Exactly. It could be a bizarre combination of deep technical understanding and high-level sales psychology.
The sources mention that, right? Possessing the ability to build a complex product and simultaneously possessing the charisma and empathy to sell that product.
It's the ultimate combination of specific knowledge. If you can do both, you become practically unstoppable in a free market.
But having an uncopyable profile doesn't generate wealth if you can't project it out into the world. You need a lever to move the world.
Which brings us to the mechanics of scale.
The old forms of leverage were labor and capital. And labor just means having a small army of people working under you. But managing human beings is incredibly messy.
Oh, it requires immense emotional intelligence, constant navigation of office politics, leadership skills.
People often overvalue labor leverage because, having 100 employees is a massive status signal at a dinner party. But it is an incredibly complex way to build wealth.
And then there's capital financial leverage, which scales beautifully, but it comes with a major bottleneck.
It requires permission.
Exactly. You have to convince a bank, a venture capitalist, or a wealthy individual to trust you enough to hand over their money.
But the modern economy has unlocked two entirely new, infinitely scalable forms of leverage: code and media.
And the defining economic characteristic of software code and digital media is that they possess a zero marginal cost of replication.
Which is huge. It costs a tremendous amount of time and energy to record a video or write the first version of a software application. But it costs absolutely nothing to produce the second copy.
Or the millionth copy. A single server can distribute your specific knowledge to 1 billion smartphones simultaneously.
And most importantly, code and media are permissionless. You don't need a gatekeeper to greenlight your project.
You don't need a casting director to put you on camera.
Right, and you don't need a publisher to distribute your ideas. You just hit publish, or you deploy the code. The text captures this beautifully by stating that the much-feared robot revolution has actually already happened.
It's just not what we pictured.
Yeah, we don't have human-shaped Terminators walking the streets. We have massive data centers packed with millions of digital robots just humming away quietly, waiting for anyone with a laptop to command them.
Because if you write a script that automates a task, that digital robot will execute your instructions flawlessly 24 hours a day without ever asking for a salary or a coffee break.
It's crazy to think about, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, this transition to permissionless leverage is inherently egalitarian, isn't it?
It really is. It democratizes the consumption of the best products. Consider old-world wealth and status signaling. A Rolex watch is a zero-sum good. Its entire value proposition rests on exclusivity.
It's only valuable because other people cannot afford to have it.
Right. If you gave a Rolex to every person on Earth, the wealthy would immediately stop wearing them. But code and media operate on positive sum mechanics.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos does not get a secret premium version of the Netflix algorithm.
Exactly. He doesn't get a faster, wealthier version of Google search. The absolute best digital products in the world are available to the middle class because the massive economies of scale required to sustain software demand, incredibly broad user bases.
So the wealthiest people just get weirder, more bespoke physical experiences, but they don't get functionally better digital tools.
That's exactly it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If software and media provide infinite leverage, that actually terrifies me a bit.
Why is that?
Because leverage is just a multiplier. It amplifies whatever you feed into it. If you feed a terrible decision into a machine with infinite leverage, the catastrophic results scale infinitely too.
Oh, that is a great point.
Right. Which means the real bottleneck to wealth isn't access to leverage anymore. It's the quality of the decisions powering that leverage. It all comes down to how you position yourself and how you capture luck.
And the sources break down luck into 4 distinct categories, moving from totally passive to totally manufactured. The taxonomy of luck is universally misunderstood.
Okay, let's go through them.
The first category is blind luck. This is pure, unpredictable fate. Winning the lottery or being born into a specific set of circumstances. You have zero control over it.
Got it. And the second?
The second is hustle luck. This is generated by sheer kinetic energy. You are running around, stirring the pot, trying 100 different experiments, knocking on every door.
Until a lucky opportunity simply bumps into you because of your massive surface area of activity?
Exactly. And the third is spotting luck. This requires a prepared mind. You have developed such deep domain expertise in a specific field that when an anomaly occurs, like Alexander Fleming, noticing the mold that became penicillin, you recognize it as a lucky breakthrough.
While an untrained observer would just throw the ruined petri dish away.
Precisely.
But the fourth kind of luck is the ultimate goal, and it's the hardest to conceptualize. It's building a unique character and a massive public reputation so that luck systematically seeks you out.
The source uses the analogy of a master deep-sea diver for this, right?
Yes. Imagine you spend a decade becoming the foremost expert in deep-sea recovery. You build the specific knowledge, you take the risks, you build the brand. One day, a random person gets completely blind luck and stumbles across the coordinates to a sunken Spanish galleon full of gold.
But they don't know how to dive.
They don't have the equipment, so their blind luck suddenly transforms into your luck because they are forced to come to you to extract the treasure.
You get a massive cut of the wealth simply because of the character you built. You manufactured that serendipity.
Exactly. In an environment defined by infinite, permissionless leverage, the single most decisive skill for capturing that manufactured luck is judgment.
Judgment is the ability to accurately assess a situation, strip away emotional biases, and correctly predict the long-term consequences of your actions.
Because when your leverage multiplies your decisions by a factor of 10,000, the variance in reward between being right 80% of the time and being right 90% of the time isn't incremental.
It's exponential.
Yeah.
Someone like Warren Buffett is handed tens of billions of dollars to manage, not because he works physically harder than a construction worker, but because his judgment has been publicly proven and trusted over decades.
But you don't get the opportunity to demonstrate that judgment or gain that leverage unless you embrace accountability.
You have to be willing to stick your neck out under your own name.
You have to take the personal public risks of failure. If the venture collapses, you take the hit to your reputation. But if the venture succeeds, society rewards your accountability with equity, a percentage of the permanent upside.
So what does this all mean for the listener who is currently working inside someone else's company?
The text points to a concept from microeconomics called the principal-agent problem, and it perfectly illustrates the mindset shift required here. It's the behavioral difference between driving a rental car and driving a car you spent years saving up to buy.
Because the incentive structures are entirely opposed. I mean, no one washes a rental car.
Right. The employee, the agent, is naturally incentivized to optimize for their own short-term benefit. They want to clock out on time, secure their quarterly bonus, avoid office blame, and go home.
They are driving the rental car.
The founder, the principal, has an entirely different horizon. They care about the long-term survival and compounding value of the machine itself. They are checking the oil and changing the tires because they own the vehicle.
If you want to capture wealth, you have to mentally train yourself to think and act like a principal, even when your current job title makes you an agent.
Because when you consistently act like an owner, you attract the attention of other owners, and eventually you acquire equity yourself.
And thinking like an owner naturally forces you to play long-term games with long-term people. The source strips away the sentimental view of business ethics and frames it purely mathematically.
Being honest, fair, and reliable isn't just about feeling good about yourself. It is a strategy of long-term greedy.
It is compounding interest applied directly to human relationships. If you build a reputation for flawless integrity, the friction of doing business completely evaporates.
People trust you with their capital, their time, and their networks. You become the hub that the best talent wants to plug into.
You partner with rational optimists, you ruthlessly ignore the cynics whose pessimism is just a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you assemble the engine.
So we have mapped out the entire architecture of the machine. You reject zero-sum status games in favor of positive-sum wealth creation. You acquire specific knowledge that feels like play.
You amplify that knowledge through the infinite zero-cost leverage of code and media.
You operate with transparent accountability to build trust, and you refine your judgment to steer the machine.
But the source material leaves us with a profound pivot once the blueprint is executed. What happens when the machine is humming perfectly, the treadmill is gathering dust, and the bank account is full?
The ultimate realization is that the true purpose of wealth has nothing to do with consumption. Buying exotic cars or massive yachts provides a dopamine hit that fades incredibly fast, leaving you chasing the next purchase.
The sole purpose of building this machine is freedom.
It is the sovereignty of your own schedule. Wealth is simply the freedom to wake up and say, I don't have to be anywhere I don't want to be today, and I don't have to do anything I don't want to do.
The text explicitly warns that money will solve every single one of your money problems, but it is utterly incapable of solving your internal problems.
An anxious person who becomes wealthy just becomes an anxious person in a larger house.
Exactly. A calm mind, a physically fit body, and a home filled with genuine love cannot be purchased with equity or leverage. They're completely outside the realm of financial mechanics.
They must be individually earned through entirely different types of daily effort. You can master permissionless leverage, accumulate massive compound interest, and stack your specific knowledge perfectly.
But if you haven't done the internal work, stepping off that financial treadmill won't actually feel like freedom.
It will just mean the noise of the grind has stopped, leaving you standing completely still, entirely alone with yourself.
And this raises an important question, and it's the thought we want to leave you to mull over today. If financial wealth merely amplifies your existing character, and ultimate freedom simply clears your calendar so you are finally forced to face your true self.
Wait, let me guess.
Yeah, what internal problems are you ignoring right now that no amount of code, media, or capital can ever fix?